Today we are modeling our project after our famous artist Edgar Degas. So he was the famous artist of dancers and horses. So for today, you are going to have some strange supplies. Coffee filter is probably the strangest. You're going to have a large sheet of drawing paper, a scrap piece of paper that you can paint your coffee filter on because the coffee filter is really thin. You'll have a small piece that we're going to use for drawing, and color wheel, paint brushes, water. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint my coffee filter. So I'm going to move everything else out of the way. And looking at the color wheel, I want to stick with 2, maybe 3 colors that are close to each other on the color wheel. So I'm going to go with red. And I like an orange, red and orange together. So as I look at my paints, I know that I have to get them really wet. And I'm making sure I'm on this scratch paper because, as you can see, it goes through the paper really fast. My red is actually looking a little bit purple. Now that's probably because there was some blue mixed in with it. So maybe I'm going to stick with that. I kind of like the way that color's looking. So we don't even have purple on here. But using your knowledge of the color wheel, you know that red and blue, in between them, is purple. So if I add a little blue on here, it's even going to mix some purple on this coffee filter. So coffee filters are fairly strong, but if you add too much water or rub too hard, they will rip. So what I'm trying to do right now is just kind of get some color all over this coffee filter, still only using 2 colors. If you want to try a 3rd color, the only 3rd color you can use today is black or white, okay? So that's because black and white will make your color darker or lighter. So I'm going to add a little black. You can do some crazy patterns, knowing that they will blend, smear, fade a little bit together. Kind of like how that's looking. So you can be creative, but remember, don't push too hard, don't add too much paint, because this coffee filter could rip. At this point, I'm just going to set this at my table to the side, and I am going to paint my background, thinking about those same 2 ideas. But I want to pick different colors. I have done purple, red, blue, purple on this one, so I'm going to pick something else, maybe something a little bit green, maybe a greenish yellow. So at this point, I'm still using that same brush, and I want this to be a wash, which means light, adding a lot of water. So I have only gotten paint 1 time, and I'm trying to add water to make this have a wash look really light. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow as well. Again, it's washed, it's really light. I'm actually holding my brush at the end, trying to cover up all that white. The more water you add, the lighter washed look it's going to be. When I come back, I will be finished and ready for the drawing. I have finished my wash on my painting, and as you can see, it almost has like a tie-dyed look. I have darker areas, I have lighter areas. That is awesome. I have texture showing through, value. I am also going to set this to the side. You might even have to set it on the floor. I'm going to wipe up any mess I have, and I am finished with my paint and water cup. So if you could bring those to the sink area, that would be super helpful. The drawing part of this looks harder than what it actually is. Paint got splattered there. All we have to draw for this part is her upper body and 2 legs. So you have a fairly small piece of paper today. We're not even going to use pencil. We're going to go right for oil crayon. So in the middle of this paper, I'm going to make, I'm going to go up a little bit actually. I'm going to make an oval. If there's colors mixed in there, that's not a big deal because Edgar Degas used a lot of different colors. My thumbs are probably bigger than yours. If I put my thumb over that shape, it's just a little bit larger than my thumbprint. Connected to this, I'm going to make an oval. So at this point, it's starting to look like Olaf, right? I'm going to color that in. I am using peach. You could use a little bit of brown mixed in there. And now you're probably thinking it looks like a beard, right? Well, it does. I'm going to use my peach like a sandwich. So I'm going to put another layer on top just to kind of blend that brown into it. And as I hold this closer, you can see that it almost looks like just a darker peach value, just a little bit of brown added in there. So now I have to find a color. So I'm looking at her dress.
May I have your attention, please?
All right, sorry about that announcement. I'm ready for her top of her dance outfit. So this really looks like a trapezoid shape. I'm going to try to use similar colors to what's in my coffee filter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the shape that looks like a trapezoid. So I have a fairly little space at the top connected to a larger scoop neck, rounded shape at the top for her collar. So I'm coloring this in purple, and I'm making these lines up here a little bit thicker. That's her sleeves. And Edgar Degas was not big on detail. So the arms, got some green in there, that's okay. The arms, you can't see the fingers. You can't see every knuckle on her finger. They really just look like oval shapes connected. So at this point, I'm just going to start to add some hair and some different values. Hair, I'm going to trace that top curved line of her head, and I'm going to extend it into what looks like a crescent shape. Color that in. Dancers usually have their hair up in a ponytail or a bun, so I'm just going to add a circle at the top. And eyes, nose. We really can't see those details very well. You could use black or brown. I'm making little lines for the eyes, little line for the nose, maybe a little line for the mouth. Can't see much. If you want your dancer to have some type of decoration in her hair, you could. You could use some black and add some darker value in the hair. The hair could be blonde. I'm going to add a little bit of value, a little bit of outlining, barely touching this peach with the black. I'm going to work on this part. So in my painting on my coffee filter, I actually used some red and some blue, so I could add some of those colors. If you want to use your finger and smear them together, you can. Can't find a blue right now. I'm going to add a little bit of outlining. Maybe up here I'll kind of make that stand out. All right, the last step before I do my cutting is I am going to color like this long part of my paper peach. We're going to use this for her legs. So I'm making a nice long rectangle color. If I put my finger on there, it's about as wide as my finger. If you want to add some brown in there, you could do that for some value. All right, now I'm ready to piece this together. So I will have this shape drawn on the smartboard. As you start to draw your dancer, you can look on the smartboard if you forgot the different shapes and steps. I'm trying to cut as close as I can around her. If you see a little bit of white, that's okay. All right, and I'm going to cut out that long rectangle. All right, now I'm ready to piece this together. So this paper will probably not be entirely dry, but that's okay. I'm going to peel this coffee filter off. And on the back of the coffee filter, I'm going to put a couple of dots of glue. This shows through as it dries, so don't go crazy with the glue. This coffee filter is going to go in the middle of your paper, or close. I'm just going to kind of tap it on there. Your dancer's body, you can decide which direction, if it's going to be straight on or tilted a little bit. Put some dots of glue all over that back side. Then the legs. Your dancer is going to have one leg coming down. You can kind of see through this paper. So I'm actually going to use this. I slid it up till it touched that paper. Otherwise it's going to look like she doesn't have much of a leg. And I would say not too much showing at the bottom. About that. So if I look at that, it's about 2 inches. And this other piece is going to come up somewhere at the top by her head. So I'm not quite done and I'm not ready to glue these. I'm going to just round these so it looks more like shoes. Same thing on this side, just round a little bit. And if you want to add a little bit of color on those ends, I might do that on the side just to make it look like she has some kind of dancer shoe on. Now I'm ready to glue. So I'm going to put some glue on the back of this. Slide it under there. Same thing on this side. Up by her head. Then, on my finished example, I did add a little bit of oil crayon on the edges of this, especially at the bottom to give it kind of a shadowy look on the floor. That's optional. You don't have to do that, but it might help so it doesn't look like your dancer is floating. You add kind of just a darker value down there. And if you want to round it into the corners, or if you want to add some at the top, that is optional. Finished projects are going in the drying rack.